Imagine walking into a gym, thinking you will just watch a few matches, maybe learn a move or two. Now imagine a black belt fighter confident, laughing, calling out a simple woman from the crowd to spar with him. As a joke, everyone expects her to be nervous, embarrassed, maybe even scared. But what happens next? The laughter fades. The gym falls silent, and this ordinary woman reveals something no one saw coming. Her moves are sharp, precise, dangerous. Within seconds, the black belt is on the floor, staring up in shock. But this is only the beginning, because that simple woman is hiding a past that could get them both killed. Soon, a quiet gym turns into a battleground, and an ordinary man is pulled into a shadowy world he never knew existed. Stay with me, because this story will make you question everything you thought you knew about fear, strength, and trust. Asterisk, the gym smelled of sweat and rubber mats. Bright fluorescent lights cast a harsh glow over the room. The sound of punches landing on heavy bags echoed through the air. Men and women in uniforms moved with precision, practicing their forms. In the center, a man with a black belt stood tall. His confidence radiated as he tightened his belt. His smirk grew when he noticed a simple woman sitting quietly in the corner. She wore plain clothes, not the crisp uniform of the others. Her hands rested calmly in her lap. Her gaze was steady yet soft, almost unreadable. He called out to her, his tone playful. "Want to give it a try?" Laughter rippled through the gym. She rose slowly with no sign of hesitation. The room quieted as she stepped onto the mat. It bowed politely, her movements graceful, but modest. The man chuckled, rolling his shoulders, expecting an easy victory. They faced each other. The instructor raised a hand and signaled the start. He lunged forward, aiming for her shoulder. Her body moved like water. She was no longer where he aimed. Gasps filled the gym. She sidestepped, her footwork smooth and controlled. He spun to face her again, frustration flickering in his eyes. She raised her hand slightly, palm open. Her stance was relaxed, almost casual, yet something about her presence felt heavy. The air in the room shifted. He attacked again, faster this time. She slipped past him effortlessly, her movement silent. He stumbled, barely catching his balance. A whisper of awe moved through the spectators. The man's grin faltered. He rushed her with a burst of speed. Her hand shot out, precise and sharp. He froze. Her palm hovered just inches from his throat. The entire gym fell silent. She lowered her hand and stepped back, expression calm. The black belt swallowed hard, sweat glistening on his forehead. No one laughed now. The room was thick with tension. She bowed again, her simple clothes swaying gently. The crowd stared, their mouths slightly open. The man bowed in return, his pride shaken. But she only smiled, as if nothing unusual had happened. "Would you like me to continue building tension? With a twist about her mysterious skill? Or make it more shocking with a dramatic reveal of her backstory?" Asterisk whispers spread through the gym like wildfire. No one dared to move too quickly. Even the sound of gloves hitting punching bags had stopped. The woman stepped off the mat, her steps slow and measured. Her eyes scanned the room, calm and detached. It felt as though she was weighing every soul in the gym. The black belt rubbed the back of his neck. His face was flushed, not just from exertion, but from something deeper. Humiliation burned in his chest. He had been so sure of himself. Someone cleared their throat nervously. Who taught you that?" The question came from a young trainee. Near the door, she turned her head slowly. Her gaze met his, and he flinched. "I learned to survive," she said softly. Her voice was low, carrying a strange weight. The gym seemed to shrink around her words. No one dared to laugh or joke now. The black belt stepped forward, his tone quieter. "Survive what?" She looked at him, her expression unreadable. For a moment, he thought he saw something in her eyes, something old, something that made his chest tighten. She crouched, tightening the laces of her worn shoes. "You all fight?" "For sport," she said, rising again. "I fought because I had no choice." Her words hung heavy in the stillness. A chill crept through the gym despite the heat of the lights. Students exchanged uneasy glances. The black belt tried to regain his composure. Do you train somewhere else? She shook her head slowly. I have not trained in years. The tension deepened. Every movement she made was deliberate, controlled. Even the way she brushed a strand of hair from her face seemed calculated. The instructor stepped closer, breaking the uneasy silence. Would you show us? His voice was steady, but his hands were clenched. She looked around the gym at all the curious eyes staring back at her. For a moment she said nothing. Then she nodded once, a sharp and final gesture. She moved too, the center of the mat again. The crowd instinctively backed away, forming a wide circle around her. Her posture shifted. Gone was the relaxed stance from before. Her body was coiled like a predator. The black belt hesitated. He felt his heart pounding in his ears. Something about her presence made him feel small. He raised his fists, unsure. If he wanted to see what she could really do, would you like me to build this into a shocking scene where she demonstrates terrifying control? Or should I reveal a mysterious part of her past that explains her skill? Asterisk, the air felt heavy. Every person in the gym held their breath. The woman stood perfectly still, her eyes locked on the black belt. He circled her cautiously, his movements slower now. His confidence had dissolved into quiet respect. She shifted her weight slightly, her foot brushing against the mat. Single movement made him freeze. The black belt lunged forward, testing her defense. Her arm moved in a blur. She caught his wrist with frightening precision. A sharp twist followed, and he dropped to one knee. The sound of his breath leaving his chest echoed across the room. Gasps broke out from the students. He tried to resist, but her grip was unyielding. Our eyes stayed calm, almost sorrowful. She released him suddenly. He stumbled back, clutching his arm, staring at her in disbelief. She had disarmed him with no effort at all. Her movements were not flashy. They were efficient. Every gesture spoke of years of necessity, not training for competition. The instructor stepped forward, his voice low. Who are you? The woman looked at him, her face unreadable. I am someone who survived. The words carried a chilling finality. Her gaze swept over the gym once more. No one spoke. No one moved. The black belt stood, rubbing his arm. Humility replaced his earlier arrogance. He bowed deeply, his pride shattered but his respect growing. She bowed back, but her movements were different this time. There was no formality, only a quiet acknowledgement. Her eyes softened as she turned toward the door. The students parted to let her pass. Sound of her footsteps echoed in the stillness. No one dared to stop her. As she reached the door, the black belt finally found his voice. He said softly. She paused, but did not turn. Will you come back? Can teach us. The room was silent, waiting for her answer. She stood in the doorway, her back straight, her hands at her sides. The gym lights reflected faintly on her hair, casting her in a pale glow. Her shoulders shifted slightly, as if the question weighed on her. She finally turned her head just enough for them to see her profile. I do not teach, she said quietly. Her voice carried a strange sadness. Then she stepped into the hallway, vanishing from sight. The sound of the door closing echoed through the gym like a final note. The students exchanged uneasy glances. The black belt lowered his head, feeling both shame and curiosity gnaw at him. The gym felt colder now, emptier, though everyone was. Still there, he clenched his fists, vowing silently to find out who she was. Something about her presence lingered like a shadow in the air. Even the hum of the fluorescent lights seemed softer, subdued. Would you like me to continue building suspense? With him searching for her identity? Or shift into a dramatic scene where she is unexpectedly confronted again? The black belt stood frozen, staring at the door she had just walked through. Her absence felt heavier than her presence. The room buzzed with whispers, but no one spoke loudly. He untied his belt and dropped it onto the mat, and his hands trembled. Slightly, though he tried to hide it. The students watched him, their faces pale, uncertain. He replayed the fight in his mind. Her movements had been perfect, not flashy, not rehearsed. Perfect. She had moved like someone who had fought for her. life more than once. His stomach twisted at the thought. What had she survived? The instructor dismissed the class early. People gathered their gear in silence. Nobody dared to speak her name, though no one knew it. Outside, night had fallen. The neon sign of the gym flickered weakly. He stepped out into the cool air, his breath visible under the streetlights. She was nowhere in sight. The street was empty, save for the sound of a distant car engine. He scanned every shadow, hoping to see her silhouette. A voice behind him broke his focus. You should leave her alone. He turned sharply. It was the old janitor, a man who had worked at the gym for decades. What do you mean? The black belt asked. The janitor shook his head, his eyes distant. She comes here sometimes, he murmured. She does not stay. She does not speak. Who is she? The black belt pressed. The janitor's lips tightened. Someone who has seen more violence than all of you combined. The words sent a chill through him. The janitor turned away, heading back inside, leaving him alone on the sidewalk. A gust of wind rustled the leaves along the curb. He pulled his hoodie tighter, feeling suddenly exposed. There was a strange tension in the air, like someone was watching him. He scanned the street again. A shadow moved at the far end, barely visible under a flickering light. He froze, heart pounding. The figure was small and slender, stood still facing him. The black belt took a cautious step forward. Is that you? He called softly. Number? Answer. The figure turned and disappeared into an alley. Without thinking, he followed. His footsteps echoed against the brick walls as he entered the narrow passage. The smell of damp concrete and garbage filled the air. Hey, he called again. Silence. Only the sound of dripping water from a broken pipe. Suddenly, a movement. Flashed to his right. A hand grabbed his arm, twisting it behind his back in one swift motion. Pain shot through his shoulder as he gasped. Why are you following me? Her voice was calm, but there was steel in it. She shoved him against the wall, her grip firm but controlled. I wanted to talk, he stammered. Her eyes narrowed, studying him closely. You wanted to challenge me again? No, he said quickly. I wanted to understand. Something in his voice softened her glare. She loosened her grip but did not let him go. Understand what? She asked. Why someone like you hides, he said. Why someone that strong. Hesitated, looked so sad. For the first time, her expression shifted. A flicker of pain crossed her face. She released him and stepped back, her shoulders tense. You do not want to understand, she said quietly. You want a story to tell your friends? A mystery. To solve, he shook his head. No, I want to learn. Her eyes darkened at his words. You are not ready. Then she turned and walked deeper into the alley. Wait, he called, following her. She moved quickly, her steps silent. The alley twisted sharply, leading into darkness. When he turned the corner, she was gone. Only the sound of dripping water remained. The alley felt colder, almost hollow. He stood there, heart pounding, staring into the darkness where she had vanished. The sense of unease grew stronger, as if the shadows themselves were alive. Would you like me to make this even more suspenseful? With hints that her past is connected to something dangerous, or focus on him becoming obsessed with finding her again? Asterisk. His breath came slow and uneven. The darkness ahead felt like a wall, thick and impenetrable. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. The sound echoed through the narrow alley, making him flinch. He stepped forward cautiously, scanning every shadow. The damp air clung to his skin, carrying the faint smell of rust and rain. His footsteps splashed in shallow puddles, each sound magnified in the silence. She was gone, but he could still feel her presence. It lingered like a cold hand resting on his shoulder. He retraced his steps, heart pounding harder with each turn. When he emerged back onto the main street, it was nearly empty. The neon gym sign flickered again, buzzing faintly. He walked toward it, his mind racing. Her speed, her precision, the way she moved, that was not just training, that was survival. Inside, The janitor, was sweeping the floor. The man approached him quickly. "Tell me what you know about her," he demanded. The janitor paused, leaning on his broom. His tired eyes glinted with something like fear. "You really do not want to know?" "I do," the black belt said firmly. The janitor sighed deeply. "She comes here once or twice a year, never stays long." He looked down at the floor, voice lowering. "Rumor is she used to fight underground." The man stiffened. "Illegal fights?" The janitor nodded slowly. "But that is not all." He glanced toward the door as if checking for her presence. "They say she disappeared after something happened." "What happened?" The janitor's lips pressed into a thin line. "No one knows for sure. Some say she killed a man in the ring. Others say she killed more than one. But no one talks about it because no one wants her attention." The black belt's stomach churned. He remembered the way she had looked at him, calm, detached, dangerous. The janitor dropped his broom against the wall and turned away. "If you are smart, you will forget about her." He could not. Her movements replayed in his mind over and over, each moment sharper than the last. There had been no hesitation in her actions, no fear, only control. He grabbed his bag and left the gym, the night air biting at his skin. The streets were quiet, too quiet. Every shadow felt alive. As he approached his car, he felt it again. That weight, that sense of being watched, turned sharply. There she was, standing across the street beneath a broken street lamp. Her face was partly hidden by the shadow, but he could see her eyes. They were locked on him, unblinking. His breath caught in his throat. He took a step forward, but she raised a hand. A small, sharp gesture that made him freeze. She tilted her head slightly, as if studying him. Then she turned and walked into the darkness once more. This time he did not follow. He stood there, heart pounding, every instinct screaming at him. Something about her presence was not just intimidating, it was dangerous. It's not the kind of danger you run from. It's the kind you get pulled into, whether you want to or not. And deep down, he knew he would see her again. Not because he wanted to, but because she would decide it. Would you like me to turn the next part into a dramatic confrontation where her dark past catches up to her? Or make it more psychological, with him slowly uncovering her secrets piece by piece? Asterisk the black belt. Drove home that night with her shadow etched in his mind. Every turn of the steering wheel felt mechanical, automatic. His thoughts were consumed by the way she moved, the way her eyes cut through him like a blade. He barely remembered pulling into his driveway. The night was silent, the hum of the streetlights the only sound. He stepped out of his car, keys clutched tightly in his hand. Something felt wrong. The air was too still. The quiet was heavy, pressing down on him. He unlocked his front door. Stepping into the dim glow of his hallway light, his house smelled faintly of detergent and old wood. He tossed his gym bag onto the floor and froze. His living room window was open. The curtain swayed gently, letting in the cold night air. His pulse quickened. He moved cautiously through the house, scanning every shadow. Nothing seemed disturbed, no sign of forced entry. But the window had been locked when he left. He was sure of it. He grabbed a wooden bat from behind his door, his grip tight. His breathing was slow, shallow. He checked every room, every corner. Nothing. And yet that feeling was back. The same sensation he felt in the alley. He was being watched. He turned sharply, swinging the bat. The living room was empty. On his coffee table, something new rested. A small, folded piece of paper. He approached it slowly, his heart thundering in his ears. The handwriting was neat, precise. It read, "Stay away. This is your only warning." His throat went dry. He spun toward the window, but the street outside was empty. Whoever had left it was long gone. He closed the window and locked it, every movement deliberate. His hands trembled slightly as he set the note down. She had been here. She had been. Inside his home, he sat on the edge of his couch, staring at the folded paper. This was no coincidence. This was a message. His instincts screamed at him to let it go, to stop thinking about her, to forget she existed, but his curiosity burned hotter than fear. She was not just a fighter, She was something else. Something that frightened even seasoned men like him. He lay awake that night, every sound magnified in the darkness. The hum of his refrigerator, the ticking of the clock, the occasional creak of his house settling. Sleep never came, only questions. Questions he was beginning to regret asking. And then, sometime before dawn, he heard it. A soft tap at his window. Would you like me to make this next part an intense home invasion-style encounter that reveals her true purpose? Or keep it suspenseful and slow burn, with him learning more about her dangerous world piece by piece? He froze. The sound was faint but deliberate. Single tap, like a fingernail against glass. His heart pounded in his chest. Slowly, he turned his head toward the window. The curtains shifted slightly in the breeze, but he could see nothing beyond. The glass, he rose from the couch, silent on his feet. The wooden bat was still in his hand, slick with sweat. Another tap came, sharper this time. He crept closer, every muscle tense. The street outside was empty. The dim glow of a flickering street lamp cast long, crooked shadows. There was no one there. He exhaled slowly, his breath fogging the glass. And then he saw it, a shape. A reflection that did not belong to him. He spun around. A blur moved across his darkened kitchen. The bat slipped slightly in his trembling grip. "Who is there?" he hissed. Silence. Only the hum of the refrigerator. He stepped carefully into the kitchen, scanning every shadow. The smell of metal and rain lingered in the air. He flicked on the light. Nothing. No sign of entry. No footprints. But the back door was unlocked. He was certain he had locked it. He backed away, bat raised, every nerve in his body on edge. The note from earlier was gone. The coffee table was empty. His breath quickened. Someone had been here, not just once. Twice, he turned sharply, his back against the wall. "Where are you?" he whispered. A voice came from the shadows behind him. "Still looking for answers?" He swung the bat, but it was caught mid-swing. A hand gripped it tightly, twisting it from his grasp. Stumbled back, heart hammering. She stepped forward, her expression calm but unreadable. Her plain clothes clung to her like shadows, her movements silent and controlled. "Did I not warn you?" she said softly. "You?
Oh.
You broke into my house?" he stammered. "I was already here," she replied, her voice low. "You just were not aware of." Fear gripped his chest, but something else stirred within him, fascination. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. She tilted her head, studying him like prey. "You are asking the wrong question." "Then what is the right one?" he asked, his voice cracking slightly. Her eyes glinted under the dim kitchen light. "Why are you still alive?" The words froze him in place. She stepped closer, the tension in the room suffocating. "I told you to forget me," she said. "But now you are part of this." "Part of what?" he whispered. She did not answer. Instead, she reached into her jacket and placed something. On the counter, a small black envelope. She slid it toward him with 2 fingers. "Read it when I leave," she said. "Then decide if you still want to find me." He stared at the envelope, heart pounding so loud it drowned out every other sound. When he looked up, she was already at the back door. She glanced over her shoulder one last time. "Lock your windows," she said softly. "Next time I might not be the one who comes." And then she was gone, swallowed by the night. The house felt colder now. He stared at the black envelope, his hands trembling as he reached for it. The paper felt heavier than it should, as if it carried more than words. A faint smell of smoke clung to it, sharp and bitter. His mind raced with questions, but his instincts screamed to burn it, to pretend none of this had ever happened. Yet he knew he would open it. He had to. "Would you like me to make what's inside the envelope reveal a dangerous threat tied to her past? Or should it be a mysterious message that deepens the suspense even further?" Asterisk. His fingers trembled as he tore the seal. The flap of the envelope peeled back with a soft hiss. Inside was a single sheet of black paper. The writing was in deep red ink, sharp and deliberate. He laid it on the table, his breath shallow. The message was short, only 4 words. They know about you. His chest tightened. The room seemed to tilt slightly. The sound of the clock, ticking in the hallway, grew louder, sharper, like a hammer striking metal. He scanned the note again, hoping he had read it wrong. The letters looked like they were written in blood, though he knew it was ink. The message felt alive, heavy with meaning he could not yet grasp. He stumbled to the window and yanked back the curtain. The street was empty. The flickering streetlight buzzed faintly. No movement, but he felt it again. That weight, that presence, eyes watching him from somewhere just beyond sight. He turned back to the envelope, searching for more. A faint symbol was drawn in the corner of the paper, circled with a slash through it, jagged and uneven. It looked like it had been carved. Rather than written, his pulse quickened. He grabbed his phone and dialed his instructor. The call rang once, twice, then cut off. No answer. A chill swept over him. He tried calling again. Nothing. Just dead air. Suddenly a loud crash echoed from outside. His head snapped toward the sound. A trash bin had been knocked over. But there was no wind. He grabbed the bat again, creeping toward the front door. Peered through the peephole. First there was nothing. Then a figure stepped into view. A man in a dark coat stood perfectly still under the streetlight. His face was hidden by the shadow of his hood. He was not moving, not even breathing, it seemed. The black belt's heart hammered in his chest. He backed away from the door, every instinct screaming to stay silent. But then, a soft knock. 3 slow, deliberate knocks, his breath caught. The sound was calm, patient, as if whoever stood outside already knew he was there. He clutched the bat tighter, sweat dripping down his temple. Another knock came, and then a voice. Open the door. The voice was deep, flat, emotionless. He froze, every hair on his neck stood up. The voice came again, sharper this time. Open the door. He backed away further into the shadows of his own house. The knocking stopped. The silence was worse. He held his breath, listening intently. A faint creak sounded from the back door. His blood ran cold. He spun toward the kitchen, his grip tightening on the bat. The door handle was turning, slowly, quietly. Would you like me to make this escalate into a terrifying confrontation with the intruders? Or build the suspense further by showing that Sheetha, mysterious woman, has already anticipated this and left him a way out? They plunged into the narrow tunnel, her flashlight slicing through the darkness. The air was damp and smelled of rust and earth. Their footsteps splashed in shallow water as they ran, the pounding above them growing fainter with every turn. Finally, they burst out into an abandoned train yard. The night air hit them, sharp and cold, carrying the distant hum of the city. She scanned the shadows, every muscle in her body tense. This way, she whispered, leading him toward a broken chain-link fence. They slipped through and crouched, low behind an overgrown hedge. For a moment, there was silence. Only their ragged breathing filled the night. Then she turned to him. You are safe, for now. Her voice was calm but carried a weight that made his chest tighten. Do not go home. Do not contact anyone. They will watch everything. He swallowed hard. What happens now? She studied him for a moment, then reached into her jacket. She handed him a small card, black card, smooth and featureless, except for a single symbol etched in silver, a circle with a slash. When they come for you, and they will show this to the first person who approaches you, she said. It will buy you time. He stared at the symbol, his pulse quickening. You are leaving me. Her gaze softened for the first time. I am already gone, she said quietly. They will follow me, not you. That is your only chance. Before he could respond, she melted into the shadows of the yard, moving with the silence of someone who had done this 100 times before. He watched her disappear until only darkness remained. The weight of the card in his hand felt heavier than steel. He looked around, heart still pounding, the world suddenly foreign and dangerous. His quiet life was over. Somewhere out there, they were hunting, and now he was part of a game he did not understand. He slipped the card into his pocket and turned toward the city lights in the distance. Whatever came next, he would not face it blindly. Somewhere in the darkness, a train horn wailed, and for a moment, he swore he saw a shadow standing at the far end of the yard, watching, waiting.